Hey everyone, and welcome to this Gimme 10 on the current Melbourne jazz scene. This is one of two parts. I'm going to make one on the Melbourne electronic and ambient scene as a follow-up. But today I'm going to be focusing on some modern jazz classics made here in Melbourne. And as a way of disclaimer, I would like to say that I'm no expert in this. I'm just sharing my passion with you. I've been championing the Melbourne jazz scene for quite a long time now, and if you've seen my videos, I'm always talking about bands like Mild Life and so on. I'm not going to talk about Mild Life in this video because they're not really a jazz band, and I'm not going to talk about Hiatus Coyote either because they're more like a neo-soul outfit. But I'd like to spotlight some artists and bands you may not have heard of before. So my disclaimer was just that, I don't really know anything about this. I'm just listening to some music. I'm a music nerd like the rest of you. If you are a member of one of these bands I'm mentioning right now and you happen to see this video, please know that I'm only sharing my love for your music to others in the community, and that if I said something wrong, it wasn't like I meant to say something wrong. It's just that I'm just ignorant. That said, to begin with, if you want to get to know the Melbourne jazz scene, the current scene, you could start with compilations, and I'm going to show you 2 or 3 compilations that they're not part of the Gimme 10. Is just like to give you an idea of some kinds of primers. So the one that is probably the reference comp for the modern jazz scene is Sunny Side Up, which came out a couple of years ago and was the work of Giles Peterson, the Swiss, Anglo-Swiss DJ, DJ superstar of Brandswood Studios, Brandswood Recordings, and I think he got together with Chris at Northside Records. I need to talk about the shops too, and I will in a minute. And selected a bunch of new acts and got them to record some interesting tracks. And there are some people I'm going to talk about here, some people I'm not going to talk about here, but for example, I don't have any records by Audrey Pound, who appears on this, and she's great. I've seen her live, and she's a trumpet, piano player, singer. She's got a lot of energy. She's very funny. She's a great act. And Lanius as well appears on this, and Lanius is again heard on a lot of records. In fact, he appears on some records that I'm going to show you next. And there's some members from the 3070 Collective, which I want to talk about very briefly because I don't want to, this is not one of the records that I'm using for my Gimme 10. It's more like a background thing. So the 3070 Collective is a neo-soul band, and it features Alicia Joy. She's on that compilation, and she's kind of one of the main figures on this Melbourne jazz scene, Alicia Joy. She's so very active and very involved with a few acts. It features Horatio Luna. His real name is Henry Hicks, I think, the bass player. Sax player Josh Kelly. I'm going to talk about Josh Kelly soon. And so basically, and I think also Ziggy Zeitgeist is in the 3070 Collective. So those names will come up later, but just wanted to name them as I'm giving you a bit of background. The other comp that sort of gives you a bit of overview on the Melbourne jazz scene and beyond is Seven Wonders. Seven Wonders is a comp that was put together by Ari from Plug 7, and Ari runs a shop. There he is. There's Ari. There he is. you go. And Ari is a good guy. I go to Plug 7. Plug 7 is a shop on Smith Street in central Melbourne, and I go there fairly frequently when we're not locked down, obviously, and always end up having a chat with him. He's a very knowledgeable guy. He's very humble as well. Nice to talk to, and he's put this one out as a means of tribute to the Melbourne soul and jazz scene. And you've got, I was talking about Alicia Joy, but she appears there. She's there in the middle there and you have a whole lot of great local bands. For example, where you have you got Lanius. I was talking about. You got War Baby, which I'll talk about in a minute. You have the Rookies, which I'll talk about in a minute as well. I hold the lines Paul as well. So a great little primer, which you can probably pick up. Right, let's start this Gimme 10 properly. The first artist I want to mention is Menagerie, the first record they shall inherit. Menagerie is the project by Lance Ferguson, a guitar player in a band called the Bamboos. Very prolific band, very, very big band on the Melbourne jazz scene. Well, like a deep funk band, released like 10 or more albums. Very, very iconic. And so Lance Ferguson has done a few side projects, but this is by far his most interesting in my opinion. This is like a deep spiritual jazz record. 2012. Features raw airs on Leroy and the Lion. This is in the tradition of like Pharoah Sanders, Strata East, spiritual jazz. Beautiful sax lines. The drums are very funky on this too. I very highly recommend this. They've got 3 records. The one from this year is not bad either. You can pick that up quite easily, but this one for me is the pick of the bunch. They Shall Inherit. I think that if you like spiritual jazz in its purest form, I think this record will appeal to you greatly. Okay, next I've chosen this record by the band War Baby. I think it's just self-titled War Baby. This is the project by Carl Lindenberg, who's the bass player in this and also the engineer. It was one of the first records, if not the first record, put out by Plug 7 Records. It was recorded direct to disc. It's an 8-piece. Again, we have a blend of spiritual jazz with some soulful electric jazz, think Headhunters, with some beautiful Rhodes, beautiful Fender Rhodes, some really clean sax lines, very memorable, very melodic, very soaring. As I said, it's the project by Carl Lindenberg, and it's called War Baby because the story goes that his parents met in the Middle East during the Gulf War or after the Gulf War, and so therefore War Baby was like a tribute to his parents. But this is a wonderful album on Plug 7 Records, as I said, and I can only recommend. You can listen to these things. All of these you can listen to on Bandcamp, I think, if you want to hear them. Okay, I'm going to make a connection with Carl Lindenberg with this record. This is the Zeitgeist Freedom Energy Exchange Volume 2. It's the second record, came out I think last year. And Carl Lindenberg is an engineer on this. He doesn't play, but he has a little role on it. The thing with the Melbourne jazz scene, it's all sort of interconnected in one way or another. That's why I've tried to sort of group records, logically, if you will. This is a band led by Ziggy Zeitgeist, who is the drummer in the 3070 collective I was talking about at the start. And hence it's a very drum led kind of very frantic rhythm. There's a couple of like bossa nova type tracks on this. Very dynamic kind of approach to jazz. It is a new jazz record, what we call new jazz, as in NU, which is the fusion between electronic music and jazz. You think of acts like Flying Lotus, Bad Bad Not Good, The Comet Is Coming, Micaiah McCraven from International Anthem, are all part of this kind of new jazz, this kind of new school of adopting jazz aesthetics into and fusing them with a sense of electronic music, and this is a beautiful record, beautiful bubbling synths, some excellent sax lines, very clean and very melodic. What I said about the War Baby record, it's a really, really great record. If you want a sample of this, maybe I tried the second track on side A, Rendezvous, very bossa, very danceable track. I'll make yet a further connection with Carl Lindenberg. This is Surprise Chef. All news is good news. Surprise Chef are a band from Coburg in northern Melbourne. Coburg is one of these kind of newly up-and-coming suburbs. People have been priced out of certain inner-city suburbs in Melbourne. Coburg becomes the next best thing, and now it's like a hub for, Preston and Coburg have become sort of new hubs for, culture and the arts in Melbourne. Instrumental music recorded by Surprise Chef. This is their first album from 2019. And we are firmly in the David Axelrod territory here. Very funky approach to jazz. Lalo Schifrin, David Axelrod. And in more modern terms, I would say the heliocentrics come to mind, absolutely, when you hear this. And so this is a beautiful, funky jazz. There's not a dull moment on this. And I believe these records were reissued by Mr. Bongo, but this is the original press on College of Knowledge. So very, very highly recommended. $32 at Plug 7. There we go. All right. Firmly set in the same territory sonically as Surprise Chef, the Proteins. This is their second album from 2018, Tactile Living. The thing with the Proteins is they're a mystery band. Nobody really knows who they are. Their Bandcamp page says that they're a collection of professional teenagers. And it's rumored that there are members from, I think, Mad Life and even the 7-Ups. I'll talk about the 7-Ups in a minute. In this band, they're seemingly influenced by bands like acts like Dorothy Ashby, MF Doom. To give you a bit of a sonic thing, Placebo, the Belgian band, are part of their influences. We have a very, again, David Axelrod-esque heliocentrics, like I would also say the El Michel's Affair is probably one of the main points of reference here. Funky library type grooves, and the songs are tongue-in-cheek, named Parents Suck, Clean Your Room. Yes, professional teenagers. This was issued only to 200 copies, so it will become a rarity in time. But if you like Bad Bad Not Good and that kind of sound, then I recommend this record. I think their third album was reissued by Mr. Bongo from memory, so you can at least sample that one. Next one is a great new jazz album by Josh Kelly, the JK Group, the Young Ones. So Josh Kelly is the sax player in the 3070 collective, and here you've got much of the same kind of, this is all interconnected. You've got Lewis Moody, who is in the Zeitgeist Freedom Energy Exchange. You've got Ziggy Zeitgeist, again, who is in the 3070 collective. as well, and you have Audrey Pound on trumpet. I've spoken about her on vocals as well. And so you've got a very much sort of cross-pollinating of, the whole Melbourne jazz scene on this record. This is a very highly recommended sort of, new jazz, but also there's a lot of, you've got a little bit of Madlib and a little bit of John Coltrane in there mixed together, and a little bit of Flying Lotus. It's kind of a merging of these things. Josh Kelly is a fantastic sax player. He was unfortunately very sick last year. I don't know if he's got better, but there was a fundraiser for him. He had some rare form of cancer, I think. I wish him well. I hope things are going well for him. But The Young Ones is a superb record. It's on La Sape record, which here is known as La Sape. But La Sape is a French. It's a French term for the rags, the clothing, the clothes. I don't think many people would actually know that. And people who named that label probably know that. Next, I want to talk about the Rookies. And the Rookies are a great... I don't know, they're probably the most straight jazz of all the jazz records that I've shown you this today. Is probably the one that sounds most like what you imagine jazz to sound like. Their roots are in Coltrane, Pharoah Sanders, but they get a bit more post-bop as well. At least side 2 of this record is very post-boppy. And the Rookies, I call the Rookies because they were formed playing live together in a band called the Rooks Return. It's a pub in Melbourne. And they're a quintet. And this album came out in 2019. And as I said, they're set in the sort of Coltrane, Pharoah Sanders. There's a beautiful cover version of Love Is Everywhere by Pharoah Sanders on this, which I highly recommend that you take a listen to. And side 2, as I said, is more straight, more post-bop. And the last track is a very sort of vocal jazz. It's super straight, but it's a nice little piece of music with the vocals of Lanius. But, you got a bit of spiritual post-bop kind of a feel. They've made 3 albums, and this one being the one that I like the best. Stay Weird, it's called. All right. I was talking about the 7-Ups in relation to the proteins. Proteins, apparently there are members of the 7-Up I'm not sure about that, it's just a rumor. The 7-Ups are a sort of Afro jazz collective. They verge more on funk than on jazz, but they're a 7-piece, obviously. 6 guys and Charlie Woods on trumpet, and Charlie Woods also plays on this. What's we hear? She also plays on War Baby. And so, yes, you've got a very dynamic mixture of like Afro jazz, if you like Fela Kuti, and if you mix this with, again, I would go into that sort of David Axelrod territory, sort of very high energy kind of beautiful, deep and spiritual music. This is their record from this year, from 2021. Made during COVID-19, obviously supported by the grant, and it is a Northside Records release. And Northside, I must talk about Northside. I talked about Plug 7, but Northside Record is the champion, really, undoubtedly, of the Melbourne jazz scene, Melbourne jazz and soul. Chris Gill, the owner of Northside, is a main figure on the jazz scene in Melbourne. He has a radio show. Everybody knows him. He's like a local legend, and so props to him. To releasing things like that, it's just really, really excellent. It's this blue marble thing, which, colored vinyl is not really my thing, but the hype sticker says the fourth studio album from Melbourne 7-piece heavy groove combo. Dark fringes of instrumental music, drifting from funk to spiritual jazz and through to psychedelic fuzz rock. The Old Worlds. Isn't that a sinister title? The Old Worlds. The New Worlds. The world of Zoom. Probably one of my favorite records of the past 2 or 3 years, hands down, is this masterpiece by Catharsina Wiktorski. Catharsina is, if indeed it's a name. She's Polish, and she's been living in Melbourne for quite a while. In fact, when I saw her live, when she speaks, I thought, well, she's from here. She sounded like she was one of the locals. So I don't know how long she's been living in Australia for. If indeed she's of Polish descent or if she's come from Poland, I have no idea. In any case, she's one of us. I saw her live and my mind was blown in several pieces because this is really an EP. Came out last year, 500 copies only, and I was lucky enough to get one copy because it completely sold out from a distance. We have a very, very elegant mixture between a jazz band and a string quartet. You have two cellos, two violins, sax, drums, bass, and Catharsina Wiktorski. She's the composer and the pianist. Very classy, beautiful, elegant music. We're in the Keith Jarrett, Arvo part. If you like Arvo part, like the Estonian composer on ECM. If you like Keith Jarrett, that kind of ECM period. If you like Philip Glass, then you're in for a treat. This is a beautiful record with a beautiful sleeve to boot. The sax by Jade Nye is incredible. She's just such a soulful player. The music is modern classical. It's got touches of Eric Satie, of Debussy, as I said, of Keith Jarrett. It's just a superb record from a distance. Listen to it on Bandcamp. The live version of it was incredible. Okay, last record on this list is a record from this year, just released recently, Protomorrow. The name of the band, and Protosynthesis is the name of the record. An excellent sort of headhunters. Julian Priester. This record here, actually, it's in my box in front of me, so I can take it out for you. This record, Love, is a good sonic. It's in the same sonic ballpark, if you know it. So they're a 4-piece, again, a Melbourne 4-piece. Obviously, it's Melbourne Jazz. Jack Eden, Nicodemos, Jean Duvergier, and Uno Lizard. And this is produced and mastered by Cory Kikos, which is good because it's a nice segue to my Melbourne electronic video, because Cory Kikos is going to be named a number of times. So it's my joining, it's like season 1 is finished, let's go to season 2, and we have a link. This is very driving, very melodic. The sax is so fresh on this. You can remember all the sax lines within like that. You listen to it once or twice. It's it's got this very, very soulful electric jazz kind of vibe to it. A very vibrant bass playing as well. And just a really, really excellent modern classic on the Melbourne jazz scene. And when I heard it the first time, I thought, wow, there's something else apart from Mild Life, to continue that kind of like. But I don't know how many people have discovered or heard Protomorrow. But if you do, take a listen. I think you'll really, really enjoy this band. They're just most excellent. So that's my Gimme 10. I hope I gave you enough of desire to go and look up these records, they're all on Bandcamp, as I said. You can find them all, and if you can't buy the records, buy the, give these people some, just download their records. I do that too. Things that are, they're out of print or I can't buy them, I just download them, give the artist a little bit of cash, and then it's a great little thing to do. Anyhow, leave me some comments as per usual. Tell me I'm wrong. Look after yourselves, and see you next time.